Hello, everyone. Well, the election is over, and there's been quite a series of events that have occurred since election night and the surprising results that happened on that evening, with, of course, Donald Trump prevailing in the Electoral College vote, although he's well behind in the popular vote. In fact, I checked last night and he was about 1.5 million votes behind, which is quite a large margin. And we won't expect that to change because of the states where the late vote is coming in from, and from the fact that these are provisional ballots mostly, which usually are requested by Democrats. That's something historical and there's no reason to think it's going to be different this time around. So the projections are that Hillary could have a lead of up to about 2 million votes when the final count is completed, which is a significant margin. But she didn't pull it out in terms of getting those battleground states, because the way the Electoral College is set up, it's not proportional to population. You have electors for each representative in the House of Representatives, plus one for each senator. And each state has 2 senators, regardless of population. So that throws off the proportionality of the Electoral College. Now, what happened to Hillary? All the polls up to election night were suggesting that Hillary was going to win. But, as we know, that didn't happen. And there are a lot of reasons given out there for her failure in the battleground states. My own opinion was that there were a number of reasons. You could say that the third party, of course, vote, the Bernie Busters, didn't help her. But I think the biggest reason was the get out the vote campaign in the last 4 days. They did a pretty good job up to the the end of the early voting. All of the statistics show that they were doing a good job up to that point. But in the last 4 days, in a lot of places like Pennsylvania, there's no early voting, only limited absentee voting. So everything has to be done on election day. And my view is that there was a lot of overconfidence out there, and the get out the vote, the final get out the vote drive wasn't what it should have been. And they even had a skit on Saturday Night Live where they showed people around the TV set predicting on election night how much Hillary Clinton would win by. People were that confident that she was going to emerge victorious. And I think that I saw that. It's just anecdotally, but from my experience in many campaigns, it didn't seem like people were as serious in terms of getting out the vote. And on the Trump side, though, there was a show here locally showing, and this is in California, showing Trump supporters, filling up offices and very energetically making phone calls to battleground states. And that's what you usually see during that period. And I saw that with the Obama campaigns. On the last few days, things were going full blast. But this time around, it seemed like there was an atmosphere of overconfidence. But what happened. And since the election, there has been this drive among Democrats to possibly get the Electoral College to vote against Trump. And that might be something that would surprise a lot of people. But actually, the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, who the play Hamilton, is based upon, and James Madison wrote about the Electoral College and how it was designed to prevent a demagogue from possibly taking office, even if elected by the majority of pledged electors. But it's never been done before in the history of the country. There have been cases when the outcome of the vote was almost overturned, but it's never quite happened. So that would be something very unusual. And as I speak, there is an effort to try to convince the electors to, well, it would be mainly the Republican electors, to vote against Trump. And it would have to be for one of the existing candidates. So if they had any hope of defeating Trump, it would have to be for Hillary. Now, of course, again, the justification would be that you would not want someone, a demagogue, who, even if he represented or her represented the majority, to infringe upon the rights of the minority and to do things that would be detrimental to the benefit of the whole country, of the whole nation. So that's one thing that we're seeing. It's a big long shot though, because at the current count they would have to convince about 36 Republican electors to change their vote to Hillary. And it's possible, but it seems unlikely. So what we are left with is Donald Trump and some very controversial appointments and suggested appointments and nominations for his cabinet, including he's actually still currently, I think, the chairperson of Breitbart News, Steve Bannon, and other people associated with the group known as the alt-right. And these people, this grouping of people is, well, it's basically a white supremacist group. And it's causing, of course, a lot of concern. And there's talk. Well, we saw that President Obama made his last foreign trip. He's still on the trip as I'm speaking. And one of the places he stopped was Germany to see Angela Merkel, the leader of that country. And there's a concern about the future of liberal democracy because of, well, Trump, not just Trump, but what's happening in many places in Europe. And I'll talk about that more later.